First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Doesn't happen in Lakeland. I've been here 34 years, and I can tell you I have never worked an event where this many people have been shot at one time, ever.
Chief Sam Taylor of the Lakeland Police Department says his team responded to a call around 3:45 in the afternoon about a shooting.
It left 11 people injured, 2 of which are in critical condition.
Welcome to WUFT's First at 5. I'm Allison Williams.
And I'm Camilia Pereira. Thank you for joining us. We start with the latest mass shooting in Lakeland. Police were dispatched to a 911 call on Io Avenue North and Plum Street in Lakeland yesterday. Authorities say 4 suspects in a dark blue 4-door Nissan with tinted windows and a temporary license plate drove down the street with the windows rolled down. Authorities report the suspects began firing from all 4 windows of the car. The victims involved were males ages 20 to 35. Police believe the men were part of a planned attack.
We have reason to believe that this was a targeted event, that it was not a random act. We did locate a quantity of marijuana at the scene, which would indicate that obviously there were some narcotic sales or sales of marijuana going on at the time. And whether that is significant or related to this, it's unknown right now.
Chief Taylor announced Tuesday morning that the vehicle was found in western Lakeland. All 4 of the suspects are still at large. A Williston businessman was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison today.
Megan Hartnett joins us now to tell us more about the owner of the blimp company AirSign Airship Group, Patrick Walsh, who previously pleaded guilty to 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of money laundering.
Allison, Camilia. Walsh defrauded the government of almost $8 million through 2 loan programs at the height of the global COVID-19 pandemic. When applying for loans through the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, Walsh submitted a total of 32 fraudulent applications. In these applications, he overstated the number of his employees and payroll expenses in order to receive more money. He used this money to buy a private island, put down a down payment on a ski lodge in Wyoming, and pay off his 78-acre farm in Gainesville. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Walsh's 66-month sentence will be followed by 3 years of supervised release. He is also required to pay the U.S. Small Business Administration $7.8 million in restitution.
The investigation into the death of Tyre Nichols is intensifying, with more law enforcement officers and emergency responders in Memphis being held accountable. NBC's Alice Barr takes us to Washington, where President Biden and lawmakers are feeling the pressure to pass meaningful police reform legislation.
Now, all right, okay.
The death of Tyre Nichols after a brutal beating by 5 now fired and charged Memphis police officers, thrusting the nation back into a painful but familiar place of protest and waiting for change.
It is a backdrop on which American life plays out. The same is true with gun control after every mass shooting.
In a push to break the stalemate, members of the Congressional Black Caucus preparing to meet with President Biden this week to elevate calls for national police reform.
Reform is what's required for us to be able to weed out the bad while we still support the good.
Republican Senator Tim Scott helped lead bipartisan negotiations over the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act that ultimately broke down in 2021.
We should be able to build a coalition around the common ground of, yes, we need more training on de-escalation. Yes, we need more resources and training on the duty to intervene.
The biggest sticking point, Democrats want to get rid of qualified immunity that shields police officers from civil lawsuits. Republicans have opposed that, but GOP Senator Lindsey Graham now floating a potential compromise to hold police departments liable for their officers' actions. One Republican representative and former NYPD detective urging more support to keep departments from lowering their hiring standards.
Because they just don't have people knocking on the door to join the ranks.
A complex challenge to cut through layers of history and bridge partisan divides to break a deadly cycle.
Vice President Harris and several other White House officials are set to attend Tyre Nichols' funeral tomorrow in Memphis.
The walk to campus was brutal today, Camila.
It sure was, Allison. It has been a very hot week. WUFT's Morgan Plotka joins us now with the weather forecast.
It is a beautiful day today in Gainesville, 81 degrees with partly cloudy skies, which is actually a lot of clouds happening for this time of year in January. Kind of like May and June cloudy skies, but it's abnormal for January. Now looking at our average high temperatures, 68 degrees is usually the average high temperature, and we're seeing more in the 80s happening in Gainesville, 81 degrees in Gainesville, 80 in Bronson, 81 degrees in Ocala. Now, if you're going out in the town this evening, it's going to be pretty warm at 6 p.m., 78 degrees, and then at 8 p.m. partly cloudy, 70 degrees, and then you're going to see a little bit of patchy fog at 10 p.m., and it's going to drop down to 64 degrees. Now, you're going to see pretty much a little bit of pure patchy fog happening, dense fog happening tomorrow morning at Wednesday at 8 a.m. Back to you.
Thanks, Morgan. Florida could soon become the 26th state in America to allow concealed carry without a permit. A press conference held by State House Speaker Paul Renner outlined his thoughts on the potential legislation. Renner refers to the proposal as an effort to remove the government permission slip. Passing of the bill is said to be a top priority for legislative Republicans.
You might notice some new additions to University Avenue by the University Lutheran Church and Wawa. As WUFT's Troy Myers tells us, these changes are meant to improve pedestrian safety, but some students are still giving it a failing grade.
2 new traffic lights are up along the westbound lanes of University Avenue on Northwest 16th and 19th Streets. The lights are being installed by the Florida Department of Transportation.
They were looking at where we're seeing pedestrians cross where we don't have good signals. So a lot of good data came out of that found that at those 2 places, a lot of students are walking to their homes just to the north from the university.
Around noon today, only about a block away from the newly input traffic light on Northwest 16th Street, a UF student was hit while riding his scooter. City officials recently described Gainesville as a city in a traffic violence crisis. Some students who frequently walk to campus believe the new traffic changes along University Avenue don't have much impact.
I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't know, because like the road's still so busy and like there's not really much I feel like they can do. And like people still will cross when it's like not a crosswalk.
But Eastman said he believes the University Avenue changes are a step in the right direction.
Designed primarily as a state highway, and so making sure that we are changing that over to the pedestrian corridor that it is today as opposed to the state highway that it may have been in decades past is really important. Same is true of 13th Street.
The new traffic lights are part of the Street Signalization Project, an over $1 million initiative to improve pedestrian safety. Although it's unclear whether the new light at Northwest 16th Street would have prevented the collision today, the new traffic lights should be up and running later this year. Troy Meyer, WUFT News.
Governor Ron DeSantis announced a plan to speed up the process of 20 separate highway projects in the state of Florida. $4 billion would go towards the general revenue. $131 million would fund the state transportation work program for the next 4 years. The addition of auxiliary lanes to Interstate 75 between Ocala and Wildwood is a projected $479 million. According to DeSantis, the investment will allow the Department of Transportation to target projects that will ease congestion across the state. In just a few moments, we'll talk about President Joe Biden's upcoming meeting with the Speaker of the House.
Additionally, we have details on an American oil company making record-breaking sales.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
President Biden released a memo ahead of his debt ceiling meeting with the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. The memo was released by the White House this morning in an effort to set the expectations for Biden and McCarthy's meeting. The 4-page document lists 2 questions for McCarthy and several talking points about Biden's fiscal policies. It also challenged Republicans cutting Medicare and Social Security and accused the GOP of supporting policies that would raise the national debt. President Biden stated in the memo he will release a budget on March 9th and urged McCarthy to do the same. McCarthy says this runaway spending is what brought the inflation that is affecting American families and the economy.
We have a critical point where we are, $31 trillion of debt, 120% of GDP. We have not been in this situation since World War II.
The debt ceiling reached its limit 2 weeks ago, with House Republicans aiming to cut down on spending to address the issue. President Biden and McCarthy are scheduled to meet tomorrow.
ExxonMobil posted a $56 billion profit for 2022, setting not only a company record, but a historic high for the Western oil industry. The company said it brought in $12.75 billion in profits in the fourth quarter, bringing annual profits to $55.7 billion, the results exceeding the previous record of $45.2 billion in 2008. Exxon said it also incurred a $1.3 billion hit to its fourth quarter earnings from a European Union windfall tax. The company is suing the EU, arguing that the levy exceeds its legal authority.
A Florida native and cancer survivor rededicates his life to help clean the Santa Fe River. Joe Carver spends his Saturdays kayaking on the river with a mission to clean up Florida's diverse freshwater springs and rivers. Carver's relationship with the Santa Fe River started when he was diagnosed with cancer in January 2019. He battled through chemotherapy for 2.5 years, but kayaking on the river is what eventually led to his recovery. Carver says nature is what gave him the inspiration to fight on.
That tree's completely fallen over, root ball, and you can see roots exposed on the bank. But now that little bitty limb is now the tree. And it basically tells me, no matter what life throws at you, don't give up.
For his 60th birthday, Carver's family and friends held a cleanup in his honor. Carver says as he makes his way through the rivers of north central Florida, he has one more focus left: to clean up Ginnie Springs. It's the last day of January and there are record-breaking warm temperatures here in Gainesville.
That's right. What we're feeling is in the top 5 for average temperatures. Morgan has more with the weather.
Coming up after the break, temperatures for January have been above average, and that's led to one of the warmest Januaries in record in Gainesville. Find out how far into February 80-degree weather lasts after the break.
Florida is experiencing hot temperatures, but that does not seem to be the case nationwide.
The winter weather in Texas has led to canceled flights and closed schools at the state as the state braces for days of ice. Over 1,000 flights within to and from the United States were canceled today as an ice storm swept over parts of the South. The cold air mass affecting the South is also expected to bring well below average temperatures and wind chills throughout the central and western U.S. In Texas, hundreds of flights have been canceled and one crash has been reported, at least partially caused by weather. Our forecaster Megan Plotka tells us more about the weather the Lone Star State can expect.
What you are seeing now in our satellite radar is actually Dallas and over here in Memphis being below averagely cold. And it's seeing these pinks up here being really cold and having ice alerts right here. And in Memphis and Dallas, also winter alerts happening, snowfall happening down out in the west, but you're not seeing that in Gainesville. You're actually seeing a very beautiful high temperature skies today. It is 81 degrees and sunny happening in Gainesville, partly cloudy. You're not really seeing that a lot, so shouldn't be seeing that a lot in January. You usually see that in May and June. And today you're seeing a lot of high pressure for our satellite radar, and you're seeing that having southerly winds push up towards the north, and that's going to cause future showers. Now, looking at tomorrow morning, you're going to see patchy fog happening. So if you are driving a scooter, make sure that you're wearing a helmet because of the patchy fog. Visibility happening a quarter of a mile away. You're going to see that in Lake City, High Springs, and Cross City tomorrow morning. So just be aware of that patchy fog. Now, looking at tomorrow, 8 a.m., you are going to see patchy fog, 60 degrees in noon. At noon, it's going to rise up temperatures, 76 degrees, partly cloudy and warm. And at 4 p.m., it's also going to rise temperatures again, sunny and cloudy, 82 degrees. Now, Friday, you're going to see possible showers happening. Possible showers happening tomorrow and possibly towards Friday dropping temperatures, low temperatures, all the way down to southerly Florida. Now looking at our 6-day outlook. Tomorrow, today is 82 degrees and sunny. Tomorrow will also be very, very sunny, 81 degrees, and then Friday is going to have potential showers, 70 degrees. And on Saturday, dropping low to 66 degrees, and on Sunday to Monday, rising back up to the low 70s. Partly cloudy and sunny, but the temperatures will drop. Back to you.
There's a full slate of boys high school basketball games tonight.
Yes, lots of Gainesville teams will be competing against one another. WFT's Talia Baia will have more on the local games after the break in sports. Please stay with us.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
It's time for your favorite part of the show, sports, with me, Talia Baia. To kick things off, we have a handful of boys' high school basketball games happening tonight. Hawthorne is looking to secure a win over Ocala Forest after beating Eastside by just 1 point last Friday. Next up, Gainesville is taking on Newberry. It should be a good matchup since both teams have strong records. The Hurricanes are 17-6, while the Panthers are 19-4. Santa Fe is on a 16-game winning streak and are traveling to Eastside, who are on a 6-game losing streak. All games are set for 7:30 tonight. Lastly, PK Yonge is hosting Buchholz. The Blue Wave hold a 10-10 record and are on a 3-game winning streak. Meanwhile, the Bobcats are 11-12 and are coming in with a loss against Gainesville. The Gators women's basketball team lost 66-55 last night against the Auburn Tigers. Florida started out strong, leading 18-13 in the first quarter. Momentum slowed down in the second quarter when the Gators only scored 2 points in the entire period. Senior guard Karia Leilani was the only one to score in the second quarter. She also led the Gators in scoring with 16 points. Florida now holds a 2-6 record in SEC play and are 13-8 overall. Next up, Florida will host Texas A&M in the O-Dome this Thursday. Moving to Gator men's basketball, the team will be going against number 2 Tennessee tomorrow in the O-Dome. UF is currently 5-3 in SEC play and are looking to bounce back from their loss against Kansas. Golden is optimistic his players will rise to the occasion.
Are we going to allow that to bleed into this game, or are we going to realize it's another great opportunity for us on our home floor, getting a top, 1 or 2 team in the country to come in here? Great opportunity. I think our guys will respond the right way.
The game is set for 7 p.m. National Signing Day is upon us, and Florida football coach Billy Napier has started to fill roster caps with his incoming class. The Gators already have 16 players enrolled and 3 players who have signed letters of intent. Offensive tackle Kaden Jones is expected to sign tomorrow. The point of emphasis in recruiting was both offensive and defensive lines. 5 defensive linemen and 4 offensive linemen make up the incoming class. In other football news, the East-West Shrine Bowl is coming up this Saturday. There are 4 Gator players representing both the East and West squad. Amari Burney is the lone player for Florida on the East team. He played in the Gainesville for 5 years and appeared in 58 games. Justin Shorter will also be making an appearance as the sole Gator on the West offensive side. Trey Dean and Brenton Cox are also on the West squad. Cox was removed from the team midway through the season in a surprise move by Napier. Both players will be able to showcase their talent in front of top NFL representatives. That's your daily sportscast. Now back to the desk.
Billions of people celebrated the Lunar New Year. University of Florida Chinese Students and Scholars Association celebrated the Year of the Rabbit. For some, it was the first spring festival celebration without their families, and for others, it was the first time at this type of celebration at all. The second floor of the Rights Union became a home away from home for Chinese students, one filled with both blessings and happiness. To read more about how students practice calligraphy of certain Chinese characters, visit WUFT.org. Before we go, one last check on the weather.
So tomorrow morning, if you are going for a drive, you're going to have patchy, dense fog, and it will be in the lower 60s. And now looking at our 6-day outlook today is very above average high temperatures, 82 degrees. Tomorrow will also be pretty above average high temperatures. Lower in the week, Friday, we are going to see potential showers. Saturday to Monday, we're going to seep down in temperatures, which is going to be partly cloudy and sunny in the high 60s, low 70s. Back to you.
It's so crazy how the weather changes so frequently here in Florida.
I know, I'm kind of excited for the cold weather since we're always used to the heat.
I know. Thanks, Morgan. BBC World News is next, and the PBS News Hour is coming up at 7.
But your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org. Have a good night.